Hello, Rockford families. My name is Mike Ram, and I am the Assistant Superintendent of Instruction here at Rockford Public Schools. Welcome to our elementary virtual parent meeting session tonight. We know that we have some opportunity to share with you some information before we start the school year, and wanted to share some introduction, some content, and then some opportunity for resources before we begin the school year next week. As we look ahead to some of the content, we're going to talk with you a little bit about kind of the process of students logging in and thinking about how to access the curriculum. We're going to talk a little bit about what the curriculum looks like with our partner in Pearson. We're going to talk about some supports that we have for students and families, a little bit about how parents can support their kids, and also thinking about kind of that first week of school and generally, what you can expect coming soon. So we're really confident in our experience this year and excited to have you along. Now, I will say this, some housekeeping pieces. We are live streaming this event tonight so that we will post it on our website as you were notified yesterday. If for some reason you want to re-reference a piece of it, or if you'd like to think about how to, if you weren't able to join and you heard about it and want to rewatch, you can access that on the Rockford virtual webpage tomorrow. That link will be available sometime in the late morning, early afternoon, and you can access that Rockford virtual page off of the main page. I'll show you that as later part of our presentation. Additionally, you received some information about a Google form that is live right now when it comes to submitting any questions. And so if you have questions as we present some of the information, we'll want to try to respond to those in a way moving forward as well. All right, let's talk a little bit about the landscape quickly, and then I'll go into some introductions of who's here, and we'll start into the content looking ahead. All right, first of all, right now, when we think about the history of the virtual programming in Rockford, we opened up a Rockford virtual school last year. Is very much in response to COVID. And we just built a great experience for students. And it was a very, good alternative for navigating a difficult situation. And when we think about this year, the state of Michigan was very flexible in allowing us in our offerings last year. And we were able to think about how we could move forward with programming in a way that really was kind of a first time experience. And again, helping people navigate through their own personal situations around COVID. This year, there is a little bit more restriction to the virtual programming in our state as mandated by the Michigan Department of Education. It is a much more application and show that there's a specific need and that the virtual setting is the best place for students. So we're going back to too much edu-speak here, but if you are curious, 5OD and 21F rules, which are pre-pandemic legislation around virtual learning. So we have been a little bit more, have to have a little bit more streamlined approach when it comes to our programming. And that is also kind of maybe why you might have seen some of an application process looking like containing an educational development plan for students, some questionnaires around placement, and some of those types of things. So we are targeting students in our community with families that are navigating this COVID situation because of a unique circumstance. And that might be medical, or let's just call it unique, right? And very much attempting to make sure that we offer families a virtual option as we navigate this situation called COVID, right, in school. So that's a little bit of the background. When we look at our current stats, right now, we have, well, I would say when we think about the size. So last year, our virtual programming included, upwards of 1,000 students, K-12, and that included 500 or so at the end of the year, students that were in elementary. And so not knowing, what to expect this year and kind of finally rounding at our enrollment. Right now, we are fewer than 50 students enrolled at the elementary and just over 100 students enrolled at the secondary. So our enrollment is much different than we actually had really planned for, but knowing that it is a bit of a moving target, and knowing that the situation evolves, we are committed to providing an experience for every single family as they, again, apply their unique situation to COVID and providing education for their school. So we're going to talk about that situation. We're going to talk about that arrangement today. We have a partnership with Pearson, which is an extremely reputable company that we're going to introduce to you today too. We're excited about the experience that we have for your children and want to share with you some of that information today. Before we get into the details, I'd like to introduce with you who is in the room. First of all, again, my name is Mike Graham. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Instruction in Rockford. This is Kelly Amshay. She's with me in the room as well. Kelly Amshay is the principal of Rockford Virtual and also the current principal of Rockford Freshman Center. This is Monica Conrad. Monica Conrad is our elementary virtual learning coach and will be walking alongside our students that are enrolled in the elementary virtual, as well as parents, to be a little bit of that glue or liaison between Rockford Public Schools and Pearson. And also she will be kind of the primary communicator about building community with our students and really kind of creating that identity of being keeping that identity of being a Rockford kid and having interactions with each other in that way. We also have Lauren Lichtenberg. Lauren is a member of the Pearson team and will be doing a demo for us today. And Sarah Maston, who is also a member of the Pearson team, listening and informing us around some of the maybe ability to answer some questions that we may have or considering some of the details of information that she wants to share. Jason Springer, you also see on the screen there, he is streaming. Jason's role today is really to kind of make sure that the video and audio is running. So thanks, Jason, for your help to make sure that that goes. And he's going to put that video together or the recording together afterwards. All right, so looking ahead then to our kind of the overview, again, we had intended to, and we communicated early in the year around having Rockford Public Schools teachers with Rockford Public Schools classes of students, similar to how we structured our virtual last year. And when we ended up with our enrollment, the reality is that it was far decreased than what we had planned for, and it did not make feasible sense to combine multiple grade levels with one teacher. We made a decision to go out and seek a partner curriculum so that students can work in their grade level along the same content and content standards and have what we feel is going to be a better experience than lumping students together and attempting to try to make that work with simply our own Rockford staff and Rockford students. So a little bit about why we have made that shift. And I know that we wrote you a letter around some of that information too, but the reality is that the enrollment made that decision for us in that respect. All right. So we are committed to that experience, to the experience of providing the virtual learning experience for students. And so that's what we're here to share a little bit more about. The RPS staff, as I talked to you, Monica Conrad and Kelly Amshay, are here aligned to support that educational experience so that there's a contact and communication coming from Rockford, and we're walking alongside. Families that are enrolling in this virtual experience are asked to commit for that first full trimester. After that trimester, then we would ask that we would go through, well, we would ask you for your commitment for the future. And if you were a virtual family from last year, you remember that process, but this allows us to align our processes in the district and also kind of have some time where routines are figured out, right? And when we think about moving from face-to-face or moving back to face-to-face, it is absolutely a possibility, but yet it's not always going to be as easy just because of some of the staffing needs that are there or the placement needs. So for example, it's not necessarily a smooth transition to say my son or daughter is going to be right back in this, this classroom, without maybe a little bit of, navigating what some of those levels of support and enrollment might look like at your child's home school or in that grade, that particular grade. Students will participate on their own district provided laptops. If you have not picked that up yet, you can pick that up in your home office, your home building office. There's one waiting for your child and you there. I would suggest that you give a call first and then you can report to the office. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Learning is definitely going to be put together through synchronous and asynchronous methods. So last year we might not have known what asynchronous and synchronous meant as much, right? Now they were pretty much household words last year when it comes to the pandemic. So students will participate in live instruction, synchronous instruction, and students will participate in asynchronous instruction, which is instruction that is them looking, maybe watching a video that has been recorded or participating in an assignment in the core subjects or special areas that is there waiting for them and provides for that flexibility. So that's a really good balance with the virtual offerings that we learned and that we really like about this Pearson program as well, is that there is a great balance between the two, and it allows parents, especially at the elementary level, to still, as you see in the last bullet point there, be a partner in their child's education, but yet it's not rigid to the time clock always. So, the parents have their outside lives and certainly will be able to assist their partner, or assist their child to be their partner in the education. However, it's not necessarily, as rigid as has to happen at this time. So that's a great piece of this virtual programming as well. All right, so let's look at a few questions for you here and maybe some answers along the way. So the curriculum that will be delivered will be for teachers in grades K through 6, and it will be facilitated using this Pearson connexxus curriculum material. Remember, we're coming from the same content standards as the Rockford grade level curriculum. So while the how might be a little bit different about how it's taught, right, the content is going to be the same, and we feel confident about students coming back into our buildings next year or at the end of their time with the virtual programming and being able to move in, feel like the transition is going to be smooth, and be at a very good academic standing as well. We had a great track record with Pearson last year when we partnered with them at the elementary level with their Savvis curriculum and found it to be very helpful. And so very, very solid experience, and moving forward, looking to have the same here. Students will work largely at home in the virtual setting, obviously, but there may be some in-person requests this year related to some of our state testing mandates that we have and our benchmarks assessment. So, that'll be something that we'll look at on an individual basis. But for the most part, your children would be working at your home or where you designate their area. And of course, you would be responsible for helping to partner with them. And then also you'll see really trying to set up a schedule with them as well, too, that was going to best meet their learning needs. Students would be participating on kind of a similar schedule, or I should say expectation, to that of students that are in face-to-face. So again, state of Michigan has some specific expectations or laws around virtual learning, and it says that about 6 hours of daily academic work per day would be the same as what a student in a face-to-face setting would get. And so the learning will be both live and asynchronous lessons, and doesn't necessarily have to be between the hours of, say, 8 and 3, or in this instance 8 and 2 rather. But with that said, certainly has some flexibility to it. But that's about the amount per day, and again, that's going to depend on the kid and the situation, but that is, the general rule. And then the routines, and students will have to kind of work through those pieces as we look forward. The live instruction and interaction opportunities that students will have through the Pearson form, and also with our Rockford staff and student connections, will include teacher scheduled live instruction. So Lauren will go over a little bit more of this and to show you exactly how that will look. It will not be the same as what a face-to-face student would have, or it will not have that rigid schedule of having the specific clock hours of the day. The live instruction will occur at times, and also it will be, or more routinely, I would say, it will be recorded. So that instructional piece may be able to be viewed multiple times, and students will have that opportunity to interact with it through that asynchronous model. You'll see in the second part, though, that there'll be opportunities for teachers and students to schedule small group instruction as well. So that might be that pull-up situation where your child needs some extra assistance on a certain part of the curriculum or instruction, and they do a scheduled small group pull up with the teacher. Again, Lauren will show you how that looks. And then we have purchased for every student in our district, just to make sure that they have a bit of another edge to support them, a live tutor access through Pearson. So this tutor is available, and Lauren will show you a little bit more, but this tutor is available into the evening, and will allow students to, reach out and get some assistance in certain areas. And that might take the pressure off parents a little bit sometimes, or maybe at those upper elementary grades, have a little bit more opportunity to get some direct instruction. Sometimes parents, I think we have to figure things out a little bit with our kids. And so that gives some really kind of pro experience for the kids. So that is a great resource, but that's kind of an add-on that we want to make sure our kids in this program have. So there's great opportunity for students to interact with teachers. It does obviously look different, though, than if they were sitting in a virtual classroom 100% of the time. There are some advantages to that. We feel through our experience that asynchronous piece allows for that flexibility. That is also a significant advantage when you talk about programming for people in the virtual world, specifically at the elementary. I also introduced you Monica. Monica is going to be that person that's going to be a bit of the connection for our group. So she's the virtual learning coach, and she is going to talk, really kind of think about the kind of that, ways in which we can just build community with our students, but also help troubleshoot some things and maybe work with you as a family to try to give some expertise about how to better navigate the learning experience. All right, and then again, parents, as I mentioned, virtual learning experience, especially at the elementary level, really requires your partnership. And so we're really expecting that you are kind of walking alongside your students by providing them a learning space, by building a schedule with them, by thinking about how you can be that person that is providing the support academically or helping them stay engaged. We want them to have a very successful and meaningful experience. And we know that this is a responsibility that we're asking for your help on that home end as well. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Lauren. Lauren's going to go through a little bit of the Pearson connexxus components and share with us a little bit about the programming itself. At the end, she's going to do a demo of the interface that students will see and then give us a little bit more details moving forward. So Lauren, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Ram. I appreciate it. That was a really thorough overview of what your families and your students can expect in this upcoming virtual environment, and we're excited to talk to them about the Pearson side of things. So here at Pearson, we pride ourselves in offering your student a world-class educational experience, all while being housed within an easy-to-use online learning system. Our online curriculum includes hundreds of courses, including your students' core coursework, their electives, and there's even the opportunity for your student to participate in advanced courses. Your child will receive the experience and individualized attention in a safe and secure learning environment, which is your home. This will allow your child to thrive in a flexible learning environment that is built for their individualized approach to learning. And lastly, we talk about the parent or caregiver needing to be the learning coach or the support for the student in this virtual learning environment. And with that, you will need some supports. And so embedded into the platform in your observer or caretaker view is Family 411. And Family 411 is available to you all 24/7, 365. And I'll show you all a glimpse of what that looks like when we hop into a demo here in just a moment. And as you all know, in light of the pandemic, many families have sought out the opportunity for at-home online learning. Maybe your student was medically fragile or had a medically fragile family member at home. We've seen this evolve from supporting those students to supporting a student population who truly enjoys the virtual learning environment. And we've seen these students go from struggling in the classroom to truly excelling at home with a virtual academy. Many families who have been homeschooling their students have sought out the structure to keep their student in a virtual learning environment, but also have the opportunity to participate in electives and extracurriculars at their homeschool district. With more scheduling flexibility, our online program is ideal for many families, and schoolwork can be scheduled to help you all accommodate upcoming events like travel, maybe music lessons, sports that your student participates in, and other activities, all without your student falling behind academically. Our learning model at Pearson has a student-centered approach, and I briefly mentioned this at the beginning of my portion of the presentation, but as the parent or caretaker, you will serve as your student's learning coach. So you will help guide, support, and motivate them in this virtual learning environment. And you will also have the opportunity to regularly communicate with your students' teachers to ensure that they're set up for academic success. Our program with Pearson offers an exceptionally comprehensive and flexible curriculum that is aligned with Michigan State standards. And the virtual learning environment with Pearson is designed for anywhere, anytime learning. Our online curriculum is a highly effective alternative to traditional public school or homeschool curriculum, and it's designed to help your student gain the knowledge and thinking skills that they'll need for life, work, higher education, whatever it may be that they pursue after their primary school years. And all of this curriculum is developed with the 4 C's of learning in mind. And those include critical thinking and problem solving, communication, creativity and innovation, and lastly, collaboration. Our curriculum in the platform brings together some of the best vendors in the education space. So we partner with vendors like McGraw-Hill, BrainPop, and Discovery Education to provide your student additional enrichment and activities that are embedded into their coursework that will keep them engaged throughout their learning process. And I'll show you an example of what that looks like in the demo as well. All of our content on the platform is WCAG 2.0 compliant or Web Content Accessibility Guidelines compliant. And what that means is there is intent behind the design of the curriculum itself. So there's intent behind the text used, the text size used, the font, the color, the contrasting. There's closed captioning on every video. And this is to be more accessible to all student populations and create an educational environment that removes barriers to a student's opportunity to learn. And so maybe your student is blind or low vision, deaf or hard of hearing. Maybe they have cognitive limitations or speech limitations, or maybe a combination of all of the above. All of our content within the platform is designed with this in mind and allows students of all learning populations to complete their coursework for the upcoming school year and beyond. And in order to provide your student a superior learning experience, seamless technology is needed. And you have that with the connexxus EMS platform or connexxus Education Management System. And connexxus EMS is just the formal name of the Pearson platform. So if you see connexxus or if you see Pearson, they're one and the same. It's just the formal name. And connexxus is where your student will log in every day to complete their coursework. And it's also where you as the parent or caretaker will log in to monitor your student's progress. Mr. Ram, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can give the parents a view of what they can expect for their students this upcoming fall. So when your student initially logs in to complete their coursework for the day, this is what their landing page will look like. Up here in the top right, we are logged in as Kiersey Anderson, and she is a hypothetical student with Rockford Public Schools. Up here in the top right, Kiersey can click this drop-down menu, and she can change her settings or her theme. And this will allow Kiersey to change the colors of her landing page. She can change her avatar here. She could change the way the course tiles are laid out. We call it a digital locker room. So essentially it allows your student to make their landing page more appealing to them and engage them upon logging into the platform and make them excited to complete their coursework for the day. Your student will also have access to announcements, which can be found via this exclamation icon here. And these can be announcements from your student's teacher. Maybe the teacher is reminding the students of a live lesson or office hours that they have that week. Or maybe it's an announcement from the district. Maybe the district sends out an announcement that says, don't forget Friday's a half day. Enjoy your long holiday weekend. Kiersey can also access those announcements up here in the top right via the same icon. And if she had a new announcement, there would be an alert here for any new unread announcements. Additionally, on this main dashboard, Kiersey has access to a to-do list, which will show her upcoming coursework that needs to be completed, as well as an access to an activity stream, which is any past content or curriculum that has been completed by Kiersey in the platform. On Kiersey's main dashboard, you see these course tiles, And these are all of the courses that Kiersey is logged in or enrolled in for this semester. And because this is a demo, it looks like Kiersey is enrolled in every single class that Pearson offers. But when your student logs into their dashboard, they will only see the courses that they are enrolled in for that semester. And within these course tiles, your student is able to, at a glance, see what their current score is in that course. They're also able to see their current progress in the course. By hitting the play button or play icon, they can jump into the last activity that they were working on. By hitting the graph or column icon, they're able to jump into their grade book for that specific course. And then up here in the top left, via these 3 hash signs, is the main navigation menu, and we're going to click that. And I mentioned that the platform is very intuitive. And what that means is it will provide your student content that they can access in the platform in a variety of ways. So we can see here that your student is able to access their announcements a third way. They also are able to access their overall gradebook for all of their courses on the main navigation menu. They have access to any notes that they've taken in the platform for all of their courses. They also access their webmail via the main navigation menu. And webmail is an internal communication feature that's embedded into the Pearson platform. This is not to be confused with if you have a standalone email address with Rockford Schools. Webmail can only be accessed by logging into the Pearson platform. So if you have a login for your school email, you will log in via that login information or URL in one browser. And then if you need to access your webmail in the Pearson platform, you can only access webmail in the Pearson platform. And webmail, again, is an internal communication feature. This is where Kiersey can send communication directly to her teachers. It's where she can receive communication from her teachers. And it's also where the district can send direct communication to the students via the platform. The calendar on the main navigation menu is where Kiersey can see when her coursework is due by the day, the week, and the month, where the to-do list will just lay it out in order. The calendar will give a high-level glance on an actual calendar of when Kiersey's coursework is due. Live lesson is where the student will tune into those live synchronous virtual lessons. Mr. Ram mentioned those earlier in the call. So this is where they will access those live lessons with their teacher. It's also where the teacher will host office hours. So if Kiersey was attending her teacher's office hours, she would access them via live lesson. Mr. Ram also mentioned that live tutor will be available to all students. So if your student was attending a live tutor session, this is where they would tune into those. And we recently revamped our live tutor. Before, it was more of an on-demand thing, jump in and see if there's a live tutor available. However, now your student has the opportunity to schedule a live tutor session ahead of time. So maybe you know that your student struggles with math and they want to schedule a tutor for Thursday at 2 o'clock to connect before they have any issues that arise in their math coursework. Again, this gives you some flexibility around your student's schedule and that scheduling and programming of different things in this virtual environment. If you, as a parent, request a parent-teacher conference, the live lesson tab is also where you would tune into those virtual parent-teacher conferences. The student activity tracker is where attendance is taken. And then Check My Work is the internal plagiarism tool. So let's say your student was asked to submit a paper via Check My Work. This is where they would do so. And then down here on the bottom of all of that is where Kiersey can access her coursework in another way outside of those course tiles. I'm going to jump into a course down here just to give you all an overview of some of the features your student has available within a course. And this is a second grade language arts class, but all of our courses have the same features built into all of them. And so when you're on the initial course landing page, all of the coursework will be laid out in order that it needs to be completed by the student. All courses will have a course guide, which is essentially a course syllabus and will go over the scope and sequence of the course. They will also have a course overview, which is a high-level overview of what the course entails. All courses have a course backpack, and within that backpack will be a list of course materials. The course materials will have a list of items that are provided to you as a family. A lot of this will be text or digital textbooks, but for our K through 2 learners, so kindergarten through 2nd grade, you will be mailed some physical materials from Pearson. The course materials list will also list out items that you will need to provide as a household, but these are traditional items that you would need to provide in the brick and mortar environment, so pens, paper, pencils, etc. However, if there's ever an item on the course materials list that you don't have access to at your home, please reach out directly to your teacher, letting them know, and they should be able to facilitate an alternative. They're very accommodating and helpful. Your student will also have access to a list of glossary terms within the backpack, which are words that they may see frequently throughout the curriculum, and those are defined for the student. They'll also have access to the web links that are available throughout that course. And web links is where we partner with those best in breed vendors to provide additional enrichment and engagement activities that are already embedded into the course. And so I'm going to jump into this lesson here to show you a few more features. And up here in the top right is this text to speech icon or the ear icon, and it will pop out this tool. And via this tool, your student can press the play button and have the entire screen read out loud. They can pause and stop. They can highlight just one sentence and have just one sentence read out loud. They can also highlight one word and have it defined by hitting the book icon. For some of our courses that have a little bit more text on the page, some students find the screen masking tool very helpful, as it will highlight line by line as the student reads through and then mask out the rest of the page. They also can magnify or annotate. By hitting the settings button, your student is able to have the page translated from English to over 100 languages, and we use Google Translate for this overlay. Your student can also have just one word translated by highlighting it from English to over 100 languages. And so here in this 2nd grade language arts class, we have Lion the Learning Buddy, and all of our kindergarten through 5th grade courses do have a learning buddy tied to their core coursework. And the learning buddy will model the I do, we do, you do practice for the student. So the lion will model the practice for the student. Then the lion and the student will share in that practice. And then the student will complete an independent practice. So here in this video, the lion is going to ask the student to identify which middle sound doesn't sound the same out of 3 words. And then the student will watch the video and do that I do, we do, you do with the lion. And then they'll come down here and complete this short independent activity. And again, this is where we partner with those additional education vendors to provide additional engagement and activities for your student. So again, Kiersey is asked to continue identifying that middle sound. If I clicked these would say out loud, bat, hat, and sit. And then she would check
Good
her
job.
work, and she would move on throughout this activity, where it would then prompt her to come back to the lesson, mark it as complete, and move on throughout her coursework. If Kiersey wanted to take a note within the course, she can come up here to the top right via this sticky note icon and click that button, and it will pop out any notes that Kiersey has taken thus far in the lesson, and will allow Kiersey to access any notes that she's taken in this course as she progresses through it. If Kiersey wanted to add a new note, she'd come down here and hit this red plus sign. There's one more feature I'm going to show you in the student view before we hop to the observer view. And when we're on the main course landing page, if you come up here to the top right via this heart icon, is the student self-assessment. And this is another communication tool available in the platform to your student. So your student, let's say Kiersey wanted to let her teacher know that she's not understanding this 2nd grade language arts class, but she's really interested in it and she feels like she's putting in a lot of effort. Kiersey will send that off to her teacher. That will let Kiersey's teacher know that she's struggling, but she's really interested in the class, and allow Kiersey's teacher to reach out to her. Maybe she will schedule one-on-one office hours to discuss with Kiersey what she's struggling with. Maybe she'll provide additional reading or activities for Kiersey to complete. Either way, it will give actionable data to the teacher to respond to Kiersey and help her remain successful in this virtual learning environment. And so that was a very high level overview of the student view. I'm going to jump really quickly to the observer or parent view. And as a parent or caretaker in this virtual learning environment, if you have multiple students enrolled with Rockford Public Schools, this is what your landing page will look like. It will give you the option to access which student's dashboard you would like to jump into. And so to keep things consistent, we're going to jump to Kiersey. And once Eva Smith, who is Kiersey's parent, is in Kiersey's dashboard, we can see that they look exactly the same. And there's intent behind this. If you are going to support your student in this virtual learning environment, you need to know how to access the platform similarly to your student. And so the dashboards are identical. You can see your student's current score, you can see their progress, you can view their grade book, look at their to-do list and activity stream. You're also able to see their announcements. There's two main differences in the observer view. One, as the parent or caretaker, you cannot complete any work or change any grades. And then you also have access to Family 411, that resource that I mentioned. So up here in the top left in the main navigation menu, the main nav will pop out and you can see that you now have the option for Family 411. So we're going to click that. And again, Family 411 is available 24/7, 365 days of the year, and it has various supports built into the platform for our families. So if I come to orientations and tutorials, this caretaker user guide is a great orientation course for parents or caretakers on the call to better acclimate you to this platform. If I go to the Getting Started tab, one of my favorite features is this creating a daily schedule. And Mr. Ram mentioned the flexibility in this learning environment, and that all in all, the student may work on their curriculum for 6 hours per day, both synchronously via those live lessons or live tutor maybe, and then asynchronously at their own pace. But this creating a daily schedule document will help you create a schedule for your family and your student that sets them up for success. So maybe you plan ahead and put in their schedule those live lessons they have that week, or maybe they have a lot of extracurriculars or outside personal events that may conflict with a traditional school schedule. You can go ahead and plan those out. Maybe your student has a doctor's appointment when they normally work on their social studies and you need to shift their day back. You can accommodate for those types of events. Maybe your student doesn't do so well at 8 a.m. They're not a morning person and they need to start their day at 10 a.m. This document will walk you through that. It will also walk you through how to create a master schedule for multiple students in this virtual learning environment. We know each student has their individual needs and learn at their own pace. And so this will walk you through how to create that schedule if you have multiple students that will still ensure that your family is getting their needs met and your students are progressing through their coursework. And then if you don't find that resource that you were looking for in Family 411, you can come back to that main dashboard. And up here in the top right is this question mark icon, which is the help desk. And you can utilize that for more supports within the Pearson platform. Mr. Ram, that was a fast and swift demonstration of the Pearson platform. I thank you all for giving us the opportunity to run through some Pearson things and give you all a glimpse into the demo. And with all of that being said, I will hand things back over to you, Mr. Ram.
Thanks, Lauren. I appreciate that. If you don't mind, Lauren, I have a few questions that are coming in through our Google form, and maybe we can work together on answering a few of those. And we'll go.
Absolutely.
Good. So I'm going to start with one of them really quick. This is a transition back to face-to-face. When is the end of first trimester? This is my question. So first trimester ends on the second trimester begins rather on November 15th. So last day would be November 14th. So that's thinking about the time that we would have. Lauren, you shared a little bit about the course guide. We have a question. Can we view the learning standards in advance through Pearson? Is there a way in that parent opportunity or that you're familiar with the specific standards that are connected to the content, or does the course guide just really talk about the lessons? Because we certainly can access standards through Common Core. What do you know about that, or is that something we can learn a little bit more about?
So the course guide will not go over those course standards that you're referencing in with it being similar to what the student would experience in the brick and mortar and those standards being aligned in the virtual environment. The course guide, to your point, does more so go over what the student can expect that they will learn in that upcoming course. So if I can, let me see if I can jump back into the student view and pull up an example of that really quickly to see if, for instance, in that second grade language arts class, I can pull up that example of what that course guide mentions. Sorry, I have it almost pulled up to share my screen for you. So let me go ahead and pull that up.
You good? Yep.
Yep. So we are in that course guide for that second grade language arts class. So we can see here, it says in this course, the student will develop reading, writing, listening, and speaking skills essential for future success. the student will become an accomplished reader by engaging in daily phonics and spelling practice. And so it really just goes over what the student can expect in this course for this semester or trimester, I apologize. And then it also gives you some directions and tips for making sure that your student has no issues accessing the information. And then it does go over unit by unit the different objectives that your student will experience throughout that course.
That's accurate. And so those are when we look at that from, again, that EduSpeak time, we're thinking about grade level content expectations, similar to the way that really, schools around the country should be, but certainly we are following here. So always the same guide. Thank you. When I look at the teacher feedback, what are the ways in which how would you describe teacher feedback, when it comes to specifically what students can expect on their work that they do? So we talked about the idea of office hours, right? And, certainly your idea of the live tutoring, which might not be their teacher, but certainly another resource. What can you expect when it comes to feedback and in the terms of student work?
Absolutely. Great question. So in the teacher's dashboard, they are able to provide feedback to the student in a variety of ways. So let's say Kiersey submitted an activity or an assignment for that second grade language arts class and she underperformed. Her teacher is able to provide written feedback by sending her direct web mail communication. Kiersey's teacher could send a video. Kiersey's teacher could send text or audio feedback as well. Kiersey's teacher is also able on the back end to see how long did Kiersey spend on that activity or in the platform itself. So maybe the teacher sees Kiersey only spent 3 minutes on that activity and that's why she didn't perform so well on it. And so she's able to say, maybe to Kiersey, I want you to take more time reviewing that last lesson, redo the assignment, and then we'll see how you do once you spend more time on it. So the teacher has a variety of ways that they can engage with the student and provide feedback in terms of giving retries potentially, maybe giving a different grade. If the student and the teacher had a conversation, there's different avenues that the teacher can interact with the student and provide that feedback, but obviously it's always on a case-by-case situation.
Yeah, and I'm sure that, like any classroom, what is important is that, there are nuances to the routines that are, that develop with the students. And I think one of the key pieces that we want to make sure that our families understand is, our students will have the opportunity to participate in that live instruction. And I'm going to ask you, Lauren, to kind of maybe re-communicate what that looks like. It is not necessarily a component of the majority of every single day by all means, right? That's a virtual setting is different. Students are definitely going to be enrolled based on our numbers with students from other communities. And so a class will be made up of students that are not just from Rockford, and then they will have opportunity to interact with some of those students as well during those times that they are attending some of the live lessons per the teacher's schedule. And the teacher will schedule those live lessons depending and communicate those out to the families and students as well. What can you expect, Lauren, when it comes to frequency? I know that every classroom is going to be a little bit different, right? And there's certainly great benefit to that pull-up and office hours workshop. But what can you expect when it comes to kind of that whole class live lesson?
Yes, great question. So the live lessons are offered, it's one live lesson per core course per week. And then if your student is enrolled in electives in the platform, it's 1 to 2 live lessons per month for the electives. So your student can expect at least 1 synchronous live lesson per core course. So that's 4 synchronous live lessons with their teacher. And like Mr. Ram mentioned, they will send out that schedule for those live lessons. And if it doesn't fit for your schedule that week, all of the live lessons are recorded. So your student does have the opportunity to go back and watch that recording. Additionally, your student will have homeroom huddles with a teacher on Mondays. And then they also facilitate on Fridays. We call it dish or drop in and say hi, which is another opportunity that your student will be able to connect with their teacher outside of those synchronous lessons.
Additionally, then Rockford Public Schools also is going to be implementing some of that community building piece here for the Rockford students to interact with the Rockford students at a lower elementary and upper elementary level as well. So Also, let me think here. I'm going to look at one more question. And Lauren, I know that Sarah is going to take over for you here in a minute, so that will be great. And there's a question about let's see, differentiation opportunities. So when it comes to kind of the GT programming specifically, and that is a service that Pearson does afford. If your student qualifies for some GT programming specifically, that is something that we will look at how we can support that in Rockford, depending on the level of the GT programming and the support that we have here, or the experience, but also when it comes to the curriculum components, we have some opportunity with Pearson in that respect as well. Are there talking points that you want to include there, Lauren, around maybe just the higher level learner and what type of reach out we might have from Pearson teachers?
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well, but there is gifted and talented available for all of the core courses for the students. And so while it does have some of those same high level standards that the traditional core courses would have, it does provide additional activities or difficulty for those GT students.
Good. Lauren, I appreciate you being here. I know you're going to run and Sarah's going to take over. I think we have some questions here just from maybe Rockford specific that I'll answer. And Lauren is a great resource for us. Families, I want you to know that the company has been great working with us, and she'll continue to help us get rolling, as well as members of their team as well. So appreciate the demo very much, Lauren. And again, we'll have the recording that parents can revisit some of her interactions here with us. So thank you, Lauren, and welcome, Sarah, as you're on with us now too as a member of the Pearson team. There's a question around the idea of, thank you, Lauren. Just a technology question. The district devices, the Google Chrome books will be what we issue. So typically in our district, the kindergarten and first grade students have iPads. In this instance, we're going to issue those student Chromebooks so that they have a little bit easier opportunity to participate virtually than maybe just a touchscreen piece alone. So that will be something that all students are issued. And again, just to remind you about that, we would ask that you contact your child's building. They know which students have been identified as virtual, and pick up the device prior to the end of the week would be best. If you are just going to use Chrome, that is certainly an opportunity. The Chrome browser, that is, on your home computer, you certainly will be able to access the platform as well too. The students will find out their teacher next week. Monica is going to go into a little bit of that when we think about the next week's schedule. Students will, you'll be receiving an email with username and password information to move into the Pearson connexxus platform. From there, once a student is in, basically, and it is initiated that this child's teacher will send out a bit of an invite about these are the startup activities for the week. Next week is a little bit of a slower week from an orientation standpoint and navigation standpoint, but they can expect to meet their teacher next week as part of that initial login and initiating to being a member of the class as well. So I would say that there's a question around the idea of, why Rockford has chosen to be a virtual entity versus remote. And if, we've tried to really kind of decipher the vocabulary a lot last year. We made up some of those descriptions to be specific to population. So remote learning is what we looked at for students that are in the face-to-face setting, and then we would remove them from the setting due to, in last year's instance, COVID quarantine, and they would participate with their classroom students in live instruction, asynchronous instruction with their Rockford teacher. And so that was a group of students that would happen. Also, we had our quarantine students in the past that last year who would be removed at that time for say 10 or 14 days. They would participate alongside the classrooms, or alongside the students in the classroom via Google Meet. The teacher would be presenting two different types of opportunities for students to learn, and we navigated that way as well too. So we have made a commitment to that face-to-face component, and knowing that that may move into the remote setting again, depending on what happens with our COVID situation. That's just remains to be seen. But yet, when it comes to the virtual setting, our families have shown us that, that is, and they need some of the flexibility that goes along with this at the elementary level. It also is important that we, think about the arrangement of this year's expectations from the state of Michigan when it comes to something that's complicated, but it's called seat time waivers. So a student participating who's not in a face-to-face situation has to meet certain criteria, which tells us as a school district that we need to create a virtual setting as opposed to that remote kind of, are you a face-to-face student participating from home, or are you a remote student always participating at home, but sometimes, on a different plan. So I know that that's not clear cut, but the reality is you kind of need to just determine which one is which. And that's a decision that as a district we have made, and we'll be able to allow teachers and students, students and families to move into that face-to-face setting when they're ready and when their situation dictates it. With that said, we also will be navigating COVID among that face-to-face situation, and we'll see where that goes as well. All right, I'd like to go ahead and share my screen with you one more time here and kind of talk about a little bit more of the opportunity. This is Monica Conrad. Monica Conrad is going to share with you what it's going to look like when we think about next week and understand that everybody's going to be very flexible, all right, next week. So with you and the startup, whenever you start a new week of school, I don't care if you have the kids that don't know their locker combination or where their books are. Sometimes it takes a little while to get going. So that's a bit of our approach as well. As you can see, we feel very confident in the program that your students will be participating in, but understand that you will be making changes when kids go back to school, and we will be making some changes as well too. So Monica's here to assist with that, and she'll talk a little bit about next week.
Yes, hello everyone. I am so excited to be learning alongside you, growing with you this year, and really connecting together as a virtual learning community. And just wanted to give you a couple of tips in getting started. The first day of school is going to be Monday. It is already here. So we're excited to be jumping into the school year and getting kind of back to our routines and the lovely flexibility that you have with virtual learning within those routines to make them work for your family. So the first thing that we want to do to get started and make sure that we are ready for Monday morning is to go to our local schools and pick up our student devices. So you will all have a Chromebook assigned to your student. Like Mr. Ram said, we do not have iPads for the kindergarten and first grade like we had before. So they're going to be able to access Pearson much better through their Chromebooks. So go ahead and pick those up tomorrow or Friday so that you are ready to go on Monday morning. And then number two, you are going to want to find the login page once you pick up your device. Go ahead and go to our rockfordschools.org. Click on schools when you get there. Then you'll see Rockford Virtual, and you can click on RV Elementary Student Login. There's a button that you can click on that will take you to your login Pearson page. So number three is to log in and jump into learning. So make sure that you are checking your email for that username and password. But if you don't receive it, it's very, very easy. So the username is going to be your Rockford username. So the same username that your child uses to log into their Chromebook, they're going to use to log into Pearson. And then the password is their student ID. We just logged in as a student to see what showed up. They do not have the course tiles loaded yet. So those course tiles will appear on Monday. Don't be alarmed if you try to log in tomorrow or Friday. Your course tiles will appear on Monday, and then you will be able to access that course information. So hopefully this is helpful to you. Remember to pick up your devices, practice logging in, and then get ready on Monday morning to jump into learning. So excited to connect with you and learn with you this year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica. I'm going to turn it over now to Kelly Amshay. She's the principal of Rockford Virtual, and she's going to share with you a little bit about some of the EDP information and where you can find that button, and then I'll wrap it up for our meeting this evening. Thank you.